is Dr. Ray Pastor, and today I'm going to review the Oculus Quest virtual reality headset. So this is a headset that I just received, and a disclaimer is I didn't purchase it myself and I didn't receive it from the company. It's part of my computer lab at my university, something that I'm using for with my students. So, that's just my little disclaimer that I have no vested interest in this company whatsoever. So I'm going to give an honest review about what I've thought of it. I got the unit about a week ago, and I've been playing around with it quite extensively. Using the battery, testing the battery, charging it, testing all the software that comes with it, testing the hardware, really playing around with it. So let's talk about it. And just to let you know, I did have the regular Oculus Rift, which you can see here. So I did have the regular, I actually had the Dev kit before this. I've owned an HTC Vive. I've played with all the virtual reality headsets available, to be honest with you. I teach a gaming course. I teach students how to develop and design using various gaming environments, including virtual reality. So, I'm going to do a review of this based on everything that I know and what I've been testing and what my experience is with the device. All right, so the first thing is, right out of the box, Oculus's new slogan is no PC, no wires, no limits kind of, slogan. And they did have the Oculus Go, which was very similar to that too, but it wasn't really comparable to the virtual reality headsets out there. So this one is supposed to be comparable to the current generation of VR. So let's talk about it. So first of all, it's pretty light. It is slightly heavier than the original Rift by about 100 grams, but I don't notice that on my head. In fact, it feels really nice and light on me. I actually feel great with it on, and I have a 3-year-old, 6-year-old, and 8-year-old, and they were all able to use it just fine. Put it on, and I don't let them use it a lot because VR is not necessarily great for children's eyes. So I don't keep it on them for more than a few minutes, but I let them all test it out and play with it, and they didn't have any problems with it. So I didn't really notice too much of a difference between the weight of these two headsets. Now, when I hold them in my hand, I can almost feel this one's a little heavier, but picking it up out of the box, I had no idea. It felt great. It actually feels really nice. Feels very well built, feels professional, nothing like hanging off of it. So, like the old Oculus had like these headphones hanging off of it, and the HTC Vive just, nothing like that. It kind of just slips right on, almost like glasses, but like, VR glasses. Kind of what I pictured in Ready Player One, them having. You just kind of slide it on, nothing to connect to. So it was very light. So it really was, it's 100% wireless. There are no wires. So everything that's displayed in the machine is coming from here, which is probably why it's a little heavier, because there's more stuff in here. It's not running off a PC. It's running off an Android-based OS. So everything really is inside the unit, which is kind of cool. So let's talk a little bit about the hardware. Let's get to the software, and throughout that, I'm going to talk about advantages and disadvantages. So obviously what it comes with the headgear and 2 controllers. The controllers are very similar to previous Oculus controllers, which are very easy to use and set up, very intuitive. My kids had no problem figuring out which was which and how to use everything. So very easy to point, use things. They are changed slightly from the previous Oculus. Like this, it was a little less round in this new version, but basically the same kind of controller. So as far as like what comes with it, this is what comes with it. It also comes with a charging cable as well. So let me just put this down here. All right, so setting it up. So the previous generation of VR, my HTC, my Vive, and my Oculus Rift, was quite a challenge. It was a challenge because you have to have a PC that's VR ready to set those things up, and it was a big pain and literally took at least a minimum of an hour if everything was going to go your way. You had to set up a room, you had to set up these sensors in a room, you had to make sure your computer was ready, you had to download and install a bunch of software, and it was quite a process. It was not something most users would find friendly and not something they would want to do. I'm a tech guy, and I thought it was kind of a big pain. So this, I literally was probably able to get going within 15 minutes. That involved installing an app, the Oculus app, on my iPhone, and you can use Android or iPhone for that. I was able to install the app and pretty much put some software on it, you know, just like putting an app on my phone almost, like just pick what software I wanted and just install it right away. And I was able to go. I really was able to go. They have a nice little, so you walk through, you start out with a nice little tutorial, and where they kind of introduce you to the Rift a little bit. It's a nice little like intro virtual screen, and they let you try some things like fire some rockets, shoot some guns, punch a ball, do some ping pong, some basic like welcome to VR kind of things. And so set up and go, it was like a 15-minute process from taking out of the box to using, because it came about 80% charged, so I didn't need to charge it. So that was kind of refreshing, to say the least. I honestly thought the last VR headsets were a big pain. I used to have to go and give demos of those, and it was a huge pain to have these wires. I mean, you just see one wire here, but there were multiple wires connected everywhere. You walk too far, you drag your PC with you, and it was just, and there were these sensors you had to set up. No sensors, so much better. So I bought the 128 gigabyte version, which was $499, and then they have a 64 gigabyte version that was $399. So let's see, I installed a number of, pretty much all the free apps you could install. I also recorded probably, hours of video, because you could, and I'll talk about that when we get to it, but I recorded probably hours of video, and I didn't have any issues with space. In fact, I hardly used any gigabytes whatsoever. So I think that the 128 gigabyte is going to be for a really heavy user. I think for most people, you don't need to do that upgrade. I'm realizing now that I definitely did not need to do that upgrade. I just wasn't sure, but I recorded like hours of video and didn't even run into even close to 64 gigabytes. So, you know, and that was a big concern of mine. So that was something. So there really are no wires. There really are no sensors, nothing to set up. You pick up the device, you put it on your head, turn it on, and go. It's finally what VR should be. Okay. Controllers are easy to use, so as soon as you log in, it's kind of cool. So since there are no sensors, they have this thing called the cage. And basically what you do is when you load in, you can see your whole room in black and white, and you show them where the floor is, but you point your mouse, this is where the floor is, and then you draw like a circle around yourself. And you can draw it like an amoeba shape or anything to show them like, this is my boundary. So it can be a big, and obviously they recommend a nice big, you want to have a good like 6x6 boundary to play VR in. But I played it in like little spaces and was just fine, because I just drew a little circle around myself, and I can only play like standing games doing that, but it was fine. So it's really cool. Controllers are just like the controls of all the others. They were easy, nice to use. Battery life, with recording on, I got about 2 hours out of the battery, which is perfect. Because if I needed to use it more than that, I could plug it in. But honestly, like with VR, it makes me a little sick after a while. I try to do it in like maybe 20-30 minutes like time periods. So I was always taking it off anyway, but I did want to stress test the battery. So you'd probably get like a good 3+ hours out of a new battery for this, which is nice. I think that the solid 2 hours with recording was really cool, especially because a lot of people will stream and do other things like that, you know. So it's nice to know that there's a pretty good battery for this thing. All right, so that's hardware-wise. And well, I'll get the graphics in a second, I guess. So, but that's the hardware. It's honestly like pretty cool. I was very impressed by like what you're getting hardware-wise. Now let's talk about software. So I said you had to download an app, install it on your phone. So graphics. The graphics are actually improved from the previous gen of VR. But they had to lower the latency a little bit because it's standalone, it's not using a computer. So what I found basically is that you're just not gonna notice a difference. I thought the graphics were exactly the same as the previous Oculus or the HTC Vive. Now I did buy I did get as part of my lab a Rift S, the new Rift. I haven't compared that to this. I'm doing this first, then I'll worry about the new Rift. So graphics wise to that could be a difference. But honestly, like, I felt like I had the older Rift or the Vive on when I had this on. No noticeable difference in graphics quality. I thought it was exactly the same, and that's about what it should be. And that's about what I'm seeing online, what other people were reporting the same exact thing to me as well. So, you know, I'd say graphic-wise it's the same, but think about it, graphic-wise without being connected to a computer. Which is huge, because people had to like go out and buy a computer that was VR ready, and that was you're looking at like a more expensive PC, and you know, I'm trying to like run demos and use this. I have a very expensive PC, pretty much the most powerful Alienware laptop you could buy. I had the R17, which was the most powerful at the time. And I won't say it was 100% smooth all the time. There were some issues sometimes, and I had every upgrade you could possibly get on that thing. Okay, so as far as that, so that's what I experienced with the old generation. With this, I kind of did notice there was some lag sometimes, and there was some hiccups every once in a while. They were the same kind of lag and hiccups I experienced with the other devices. And sometimes I think that's really do with the sensors. I always thought it was to do with the sensors, not necessarily my machines. And I still think it is. I think sometimes the sensors can just get confused and overloaded and get a little confused. I'd say overall I had a good experience though. Hardly not lag mostly at all. It was like, but I did notice it. There was a time or two where something was like, you know, quit on me, unexperienced error kind of situation. And there were some times where I did notice, like I was riding it on the roller coaster game. There were like some choppiness sometimes when it was trying to go really fast. And these could all be like various software issues that are going to get, you know, smoothed over as the device is brand new. So as it comes out, you know, I kind of expect these things. So, but I was happy. I'd say the lag was not an issue for me. There was some times that I did notice it, but it was no different than what I experienced with the other older VR headsets either. It was very similar kinds of lag. Like it'd be sporadic, not common, but it would happen. Okay, sound. Man, the sound of this thing is awesome. I didn't wear any so there is a headphone jack. You can wear headphones, but there's no need to unless like people are in the room with you and they don't want to hear it. I thought the sound was actually great. Even like when my kids were playing it, I could hear what they were doing. It was really, really cool. I thought the sound was awesome. So, you know, bravo to Oculus on the sound of this machine. Really cool. It's not in your ears. It's actually, you can see where it's coming through, like on the sides here, like inside, but there's no like headphone, but so it's the sound's coming through right here, my ear's here, so you can see the space. It sounds like it's coming right in my ear. It's awesome. It was really, I was very impressed with the sound. So, you know, I'd say that was pretty happy about that. As far as the library, let's talk about the library in games. Not a lot of software out for the machine at this point. I was pretty, you know, I wasn't very impressed with the software library. And I get, this machine just came out. So when any new machine, new technology comes out, even like when the new Xbox comes out, new Nintendo, there's not a lot of games for it. And so that's to be expected. So there wasn't a lot, but there are some. I mean, there was enough free games out there. There are a lot of games out there that would cost like $30 and $10, and it seemed like there were a number of games that cost money and just a couple free games. But they had some main ones, like some that I prefer and like Rec Room, where you can do like paintball and stuff. And then, you know, there were some options, so it wasn't bad. And there were some cool demos and things I could play with. The one thing that I really think is lacking, and this isn't just Oculus, it's all not just the Oculus Quest, it's all the Oculus, it's the HTC Vive, it's any VR headset right now. First of all, there's no like blockbuster hit, and there's nothing on here, there's no piece of software that I get with this, that comes with this, that says buy me. And I think that's a big problem that the VR companies really need to solve. Like when I think back to when video game systems first came out, so let's talk about like the big ones, like, you know, and I'm going to bypass Atari and Magnavox and some of the oldest ones and go right to like Nintendo. So the Nintendo Entertainment System. When the Nintendo Entertainment System first came out, it came with Super Mario Brothers, which just was a huge instant classic hit. Every kid that bought the Nintendo, it came with a game that you could play for hours and love. And that game, because it was so good, made you want to buy all the other cool games for the system. None of these virtual reality systems have that. There is no where I'm like, I gotta get virtual reality because I gotta get this game. And that awesome game should come with the system to sell the general consumer the system and to show them what it's capable of. I didn't feel like there's no one, like if I was gonna show this device off to my students, there's no one app that I'm like, oh, you guys gotta try this because it does everything. I think there is an app out there. I'd really like to show people Richie's Plank Experience because I think that it does a good job of showing people how to fly and do some things, but like it doesn't do everything. I really think that these VR companies need to invest in one nice, powerful, standalone game that's going to get people, show them completely what virtual reality is capable of and get them hooked so that they want to buy all the rest of the games and see this nice big library of games. I think that that's one thing they could really do a lot better, and I think they need to put some time into software development to do that. Okay, so, and as far as like, so if I wanted to take this into a classroom, like the National Geographic app was $10. And some of the other things that like I'd want to use for educational purposes to show my students, I wish there were at least demos or free versions to, get me hooked and make me want to purchase it. And coming with at least one free, like nice standalone software the way Nintendo used to. Like when the Wii was released, they came out with the Wii Sports. That it was all these cool sports that did everything, showed you what the hand controllers could do. It was very helpful to have that. And I think that VR really needs that. Okay, so I took, as I said, I have the 128 gigabyte version. I took tons of photos. I didn't not record. I recorded every single thing I did the whole entire time and never even came close to using 64 gigabytes of space. I probably installed maybe 12 to 15 apps or games, and I recorded, I don't know how many hours and hours and hours upon video, and I actually just finally downloaded and deleted all the video, but I hadn't stopped and downloaded it at all. So you're very easily going to be okay with space. I really don't see the need for that 128 gigabyte version, except for the person who's really doesn't like deleting and reinstalling things and is going to really, really, really add a lot to the device. I think for most people, like if I was a school buying this for a classroom, I would definitely buy the 64 gigabyte version hands down without even thinking about it. All right. But it does take photos and it records everything. So let's talk about that. Let's talk about let's talk about like streaming and getting your photos and stuff. So to get my photos was really easy. I just connected my headset right to my PC. You can also, there's some like virtual ways to do it, like you can connect to the app and you can send it different places. I connected it right to my PC because I knew it would be super quick. You do have to have a USB-C connector, which I'm not sure all laptops have. Mine does. I have all the Alienware machines are going to have that. So all the high-end machines are going to have that connection. But not every machine does not have it at this point. Newer ones will. So I was able to connect it and you can always just buy a little, $8 connector that connects USB to USB-C or to HDMI, so you can do it. But it was very simple. I basically just opened it up almost like a folder on my machine. So really simple to pull all those videos and photos right onto my desktop, which is pretty cool. All right, so let's talk about streaming with the system, because a lot of people are streamers now. They love to stream their games and show them to people. And even I was like, oh, I'm recording this. It's not that I necessarily wanted to stream it, but it would be kind of cool to stream. I'd say streaming at this point is really disappointing. There are only a few ways to do it. That includes the Oculus. I can stream to the Oculus app. I can stream via a Google Chromecast, or I can stream to Facebook. So I thought that was really disappointing. I get Facebook owns this and they want it to be streamed to them, but like everyone streams to Twitch or YouTube, and it's mostly Twitch. So the fact that I can't stream to either of those easily right now was pretty disappointing. Now, I've been reading the forums, and there are some workarounds people have had to get OBS recording your stuff, and some of them involve like connecting a wire to your PC and like going into the dev mode on your device and tricking it and stuff. And honestly, like something the common user is just not going to do. Totally not fun. Didn't sound fun to do it. Major workarounds, just not worth it. And that's kind of disappointing. So I think that, and that's a software thing. They can definitely improve that. As I said, this device is brand new. They don't tell you what they're going to come out with. So in 1 year from now, if you're watching this video and you're like, well, wait a second, you can stream on Twitch. Okay, yeah, but at the time I'm making this, you cannot do it. So, you know, think about that. If you're a big streamer and you want to stream this, think about how you're going to really do that. Look at the workarounds and see if it's worth it. There's a web browser. Web browser was really cool. So there's lots of like VR experiences that you can go in and do with the web browser. So I did some of them. Like, for example, I could go see like the place it's like in Norway where we have all the seeds, like the vault, where they have all the world seeds and stuff. So you could like go in the web browser and go in there and go in the vault and look around, and it's pretty cool. It's really neat. And there's a bunch of those like cool web experiences like that are all free, and you can go see and do some really cool things. So I was pretty happy about that. So that's basically my review. I'd say overall, I think that this device I really was impressed. I thought it was awesome. Just the fact that there's no wires and no sensors to deal with, I thought was amazing. You know, I told people when I had the dev kit for Oculus, 7 years ago or something like that, 5 years ago, whatever it was. But when the HTC Vive and Rift came out, I told people, I said, remember when cell phones used to have this big, huge bag? I was like, that's where we are with we're like in 1985 with virtual reality. So I was like, in 10 years, it's going to be awesome. I think that the Quest is next gen. I think that the new version of the Rift that came out with the wire, the Rift S, I still think being connected to the computer, I think, is a significant drawback for myself, and I can see why it is for other people. It's a big pain. I get that people want to play the more powerful games. Like, I understand completely why they want to be connected to the computer, but I don't think that virtual reality was made to be connected to a machine like that. I think that there's just too many issues, and I think the standalone set is awesome. If I was going to go out and buy a personal headset for myself right now, hands down, this would be it. I'd buy the 64 gigabyte version of this, no questions asked. There's going to be more games coming out. I know the software library will be expanded. There is definitely a lack of software right now, but there's enough out there that I can get the VR experience. I'm going to use this to demo for people all year. I'm going to be able to take this into someone's office and show them how to use virtual reality in 1 second. I could never do that with the previous version. Having a school use VR before, in a classroom like before this, you had to have a dedicated room, had to be all set up, had to have the sensors all set up. The instructor had to make sure that the computer was working, everything was working, all connected, all right, and a student comes in and uses it, and one little connector gets out, and everything's done. This is not like that. I'm going to be able to walk into a classroom, put this on students, tell them what to do so that they can go and begin. It's just like night and day difference. I think that that's awesome. So I think if you're new getting into virtual reality, you're considering a headset right now, you're considering trying to test it out for work, you're considering testing it out in a class or something, I think this is the way to go. This is the headset to buy. And that's my review. Thank you.